4 brothers each ordered mail-order brides. The Chinese girls who arrived were sisters finding true love. He worked long hours in a local factory and had always dreamed of having someone to share his life with, someone kind and understanding. The second brother, Bilal, was quiet and thoughtful. He often spent time reading and helping at the small family shop. Deep down, he longed for companionship, someone who could understand his gentle nature. The third brother, Samir, was lively and adventurous. He loved traveling to nearby cities, meeting new people and exploring life's possibilities. Yet, he felt lonely in the evenings when he returned home to an empty house. The youngest brother, Imran, was playful and cheerful, always joking and making others laugh. But he, too, felt a void, a quiet wish for someone special to care for and to care for him in return. Over the years, marriage had become a topic that could not be ignored. Friends and family constantly asked when they would settle down. The brothers were open to love, but the opportunities in their small town were limited. One evening, during a family gathering, the conversation turned to mail-order brides. At first, the brothers laughed at the idea. It seemed strange to think about choosing a life partner from a catalog of photographs and short descriptions. But the more they discussed it, the more it made sense. They realized that this could be a chance to meet someone genuinely kind-hearted, someone willing to build a life together despite the distance and cultural differences. The brothers decided to take a careful approach. Each of them would look for a woman who matched his personality and values. They spoke to agencies, read profiles, and learned about the process. It was important to all 4 that this step was respectful and thoughtful, not rushed. They wanted their future wives to feel safe and valued, and they wanted to ensure a genuine connection could develop. Weeks passed as they communicated with potential brides through letters, emails, and calls. They shared their daily lives, dreams, and expectations, gradually building trust and understanding. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, 3 sisters lived in a bustling city in China. The oldest sister, Li Mei, was practical and patient. She cared deeply for her younger sisters, Zhu Ying and Lan Hua, and often guided them through life's decisions. They had heard about opportunities abroad and decided to explore them together. Life in their hometown had been simple, and the sisters hoped for a better future where they could live comfortably, find love, and build their own families. After careful thought, they contacted an agency that could help them meet families in other countries. The sisters were nervous but hopeful. They promised each other that they would face this new adventure together, supporting one another no matter what happened. The day finally arrived when the sisters were to travel. Their hearts were filled with excitement and fear. They hugged their parents tightly, promising to stay in touch and to return with stories of happiness. Li Mei reassured her younger sisters, reminding them that courage often led to the most beautiful experiences in life. As the plane took off, each sister looked out of the window, wondering what awaited them. Across the ocean, the brothers were equally anxious. They had arranged to meet the sisters at the airport, unsure of what to expect but ready to welcome them into their lives. When the sisters arrived, the airport was bustling with people, and the brothers scanned the crowd nervously. The moment they saw the 3 young women approaching, they felt a mix of relief and curiosity. There was Li Mei, with her calm and confident demeanor, Zhu Ying, shy but bright-eyed, and Lan Hua, cheerful and quick to smile. The brothers introduced themselves with polite gestures and warm smiles, trying to ease the tension of a first meeting. There was an instant sense of curiosity, as both sides observed and tried to understand each other. The ride home was quiet at first. Everyone was polite but cautious, unsure of how to communicate fully. Ahmed, being the eldest, tried to start small conversations with Li Mei about her journey and her experiences. Bilal gently asked Zhu Ying about her hobbies and interests. Samir, ever the lively one, tried to make Lan Hua laugh with his jokes, and Imran chimed in with cheerful chatter to lighten the mood. Slowly, laughter replaced nervousness, and a sense of comfort began to settle. Back at their family home, the brothers had prepared rooms for the sisters, decorated simply but warmly. It was clear they wanted them to feel welcome and respected. That evening, as everyone sat together over dinner, the initial awkwardness began to fade. The sisters shared stories from their hometown, describing the streets they grew up on, the markets they visited, and the traditions they loved. The brothers listened attentively, asking questions and learning about the sisters' lives. It was a small but meaningful start, the first steps toward understanding and connection. As days passed, small routines began to form. The brothers and sisters learned each other's habits, discovering shared interests and learning to respect differences. Ahmed admired Li Mei's calm intelligence and her ability to handle challenges gracefully. Bilal found comfort in Zhu Ying's gentle nature, feeling a connection that went beyond words. Samir enjoyed Lan Hua's cheerful spirit, which mirrored his own energy, and Imran found joy in her lively conversations that made every day feel lighter. Despite these positive moments, challenges were inevitable. The sisters struggled with a new language, unfamiliar customs, and the emotional weight of being far from home. The brothers, too, faced the task of understanding cultural differences and learning to communicate patiently. Misunderstandings arose, but they were met with willingness to learn, not frustration. The home became a place of mutual discovery, where patience, kindness, and respect were slowly building the foundation for deeper relationships. One afternoon, as the brothers were working on household chores together, Ahmed accidentally overheard Li Mei and the younger sisters speaking in their native language. Curious, he asked what they were talking about, and the sisters explained that they were sisters. The revelation surprised the brothers. None of them had expected that the women they were meeting would be related. For a moment, the room was filled with astonishment and quiet laughter. The realization brought a new sense of connection. They were no longer just strangers brought together by circumstance. They were part of a family, linked not only through marriage but through the bond of sisterhood. The discovery also added a new layer of responsibility. The brothers understood that the sisters' bond was strong, and any actions affecting one would inevitably affect the others. This knowledge encouraged the brothers to act with care, to ensure that trust and respect were maintained at all times. For the sisters, seeing that the brothers accepted and valued their relationship gave them reassurance and hope. They felt that perhaps this adventure could lead to genuine love and partnership. Evenings became moments of shared stories and laughter. Ahmed and Li Mei would sit quietly, discussing their days and learning about each other's dreams. Bilal and Zhu Ying would enjoy long walks around the neighborhood, exploring small shops and parks, quietly building their connection. Samir and Lan Hua would playfully tease each other, sharing jokes and discovering each other's humor, while Imran often joined in, keeping the home full of cheer and light-hearted energy. Despite the differences in culture, language, and life experiences, the initial fear of the unknown slowly melted away. Both the brothers and sisters realized that they were learning not just about each other, but about themselves. They discovered patience, understanding, empathy, and the courage to open their hearts to possibilities they had never imagined. The first month passed with small celebrations, meals cooked together, and shared routines. It was not without mistakes or misunderstandings, but each challenge became an opportunity to strengthen bonds. The sisters learned to navigate the new environment, and the brothers learned to embrace differences and communicate with care. Every shared laugh, every gesture of kindness, and every moment of understanding became a thread in the growing tapestry of their relationships. By the end of the month, the brothers and sisters felt a quiet but profound change. What began as a practical arrangement was slowly transforming into something deeper. The sisters, once anxious and cautious, began to feel at home. The brothers, once unsure and hesitant, began to feel the warmth of companionship and the first stirrings of affection. Life, which had once seemed ordinary and predictable, had become richer, fuller, and more meaningful. Though the journey was just beginning, everyone sensed that fate had guided them to this point for a reason. The sisters had traveled across the world not knowing what awaited them, and the brothers had opened their hearts to the unknown. Now, as they shared their first month together, a quiet bond of trust, respect, and budding affection had formed. It was a beginning full of hope, the start of a story that would test their patience, courage, and hearts, but also one that held the promise of love, family, and lifelong connection. The first few weeks had passed, and the excitement of meeting each other had slowly settled into a rhythm of daily life. The four brothers and the three sisters were learning to adjust, but the real challenge of blending their lives was only beginning. Each day brought new experiences, small misunderstandings, and little victories that slowly shaped the bonds between them. Ahmed and Li Mei were the first to notice how difficult it was for the sisters to fully adjust to their new home. Li Mei, though calm and patient, struggled with the language. Even simple conversations took time and effort, and she often worried about making mistakes. Ahmed, understanding and gentle, tried his best to communicate clearly. He would use gestures, draw pictures, or repeat words slowly. Sometimes, when frustration crept in, he would step back, reminding himself that patience was the key. Li Mei admired his calm nature and appreciated that he never made her feel embarrassed for not understanding. Bilal and Zhu Ying faced different challenges. Bilal was quiet and thoughtful, and he preferred calm routines. Zhu Ying, while gentle, was shy and hesitant. She often stayed in her room, speaking softly and avoiding eye contact when feeling nervous. Bilal noticed this and made small efforts to engage her without pushing too hard. He would leave little notes in her room, offering kind words or simple questions. Slowly, Zhu Ying began to respond, first with nods or smiles, then with short sentences. Their connection grew quietly, based on trust and understanding, rather than loud gestures or grand declarations. Samir and Lan Hua had a more energetic dynamic. Both were lively and playful, which made their interactions full of laughter. But even with humor, challenges appeared. Lan Hua would sometimes misunderstand Samir's jokes, and Samir would feel frustrated when she didn't react as he expected. After a few awkward moments, they learned to pause, explain, and adjust. Lan Hua began to understand Samir's humor, and Samir learned to appreciate her thoughtful reactions. Their relationship, though playful, began to deepen, as each learned patience, empathy, and communication. Imran, the youngest brother, was cheerful and talkative. He loved making the sisters laugh and would often join in Samir and Lan Hua's playful moments. But even Imran faced struggles. He sometimes overestimated the sisters' comfort with jokes or teasing, which could make them uncomfortable. Imran quickly realized that being kind and observant was as important as being funny. He began to notice small details, what made them smile, what made them nervous, and adjusted his behavior. The sisters appreciated his warmth and good intentions, even when minor misunderstandings occurred. The household quickly became a place of learning and growth. Every morning began with breakfast, where all seven would gather around the table. Ahmed took the lead in preparing simple meals, while Li Mei learned to help, enjoying the process of cooking together. Bilal and Zhu Ying would often clean up afterward, turning chores into a quiet, shared time. Samir and Lan Hua brought energy into the kitchen, teasing each other and occasionally causing a small mess, which Imran would help clean. Though the mornings were busy, they became a time for shared laughter, cooperation, and subtle bonding. Language remained a central challenge. Even with efforts to learn slowly, communication was sometimes difficult. Misunderstandings were common, especially when trying to express emotions or describe personal experiences. There were moments of frustration, when a word was misunderstood or a gesture misinterpreted. But these moments became opportunities for learning. Ahmed would patiently repeat, Bilal would write down explanations, Samir would demonstrate through action, and Imran would encourage everyone to laugh at small mistakes. Over time, these small efforts created a stronger understanding between them all. Beyond language, cultural differences also became apparent. The sisters had grown up with traditions and daily habits that were unfamiliar to the brothers. Li Mei often prepared meals that the brothers had never tried, and at first, they were unsure how to react. Ahmed would politely taste and compliment, while Samir and Imran sometimes laughed at the unfamiliar flavors. Over time, however, they learned to appreciate the richness of the sisters' culture. They began to ask questions, show curiosity, and even try new recipes together. The home became a small fusion of cultures, a place where learning and sharing went hand in hand. Outside the house, the sisters faced another layer of adjustment. Walking through the town, they often attracted curious glances from neighbors and shopkeepers. Some were kind and welcoming, while others were hesitant or judgmental. Li Mei and Zhu Ying sometimes felt nervous, but Lan Hua's cheerful nature helped lighten the mood. Ahmed, Bilal, Samir, and Imran always accompanied the sisters, offering support and encouragement. Slowly, the sisters began to navigate the town confidently, forming small connections with locals, learning the language, and understanding the daily rhythms of life in a new country. One of the most delicate challenges was emotional adjustment. The sisters often missed their parents, their friends, and their familiar surroundings. They shared stories of childhood memories and traditions, sometimes with tears and sometimes with laughter. The brothers, in turn, shared their own family experiences, explaining their daily lives and the hopes they had for their future. These exchanges created empathy and emotional closeness, helping everyone feel that they were no longer alone in their struggles. Despite the difficulties, moments of joy began to emerge. Ahmed and Li Mei discovered a shared love for gardening. They would spend quiet afternoons tending to small plants in the backyard, exchanging stories while learning together. Bilal and Zhu Ying found comfort in evening walks, talking quietly about life, books, and dreams. Samir and Lan Hua began to enjoy music together, laughing as they danced in the living room or sang along to favorite songs. Imran often joined in, making silly faces and keeping the atmosphere light. Each shared activity, no matter how small, strengthened bonds and created memories that would last a lifetime. Family dynamics were not always smooth. Differences in personality sometimes led to disagreements or tension. Ahmed's seriousness occasionally clashed with Samir's playful energy. Bilal's quiet patience could be misinterpreted by Zhu Ying's shyness as disinterest. Lan Hua's enthusiasm sometimes overwhelmed Imran's need for calm. But each time a misunderstanding arose, they learned to pause, communicate, and forgive. These small conflicts, though challenging, became opportunities for growth and understanding, helping everyone develop patience, empathy, and compromise. As the days turned into weeks, trust began to deepen. The sisters saw that the brothers genuinely cared for them, not just as partners but as people. The brothers observed the sisters' dedication, kindness, and resilience, realizing that their initial hopes were transforming into genuine admiration. Each couple began to feel that their relationship was more than a practical arrangement. It was the beginning of something meaningful, based on respect, understanding, and the gradual development of love. An important turning point came during a small festival in the town. The brothers decided to take the sisters to celebrate a local tradition. The sisters were curious and excited, but also slightly nervous about participating in customs they had never experienced. Ahmed guided Li Mei through the rituals, explaining each step and encouraging her to join. Bilal gently held Zhu Ying's hand, making sure she felt comfortable as they watched the festivities. Samir and Lan Hua laughed together, enjoying the lively music, while Imran cheered and encouraged everyone to join in the dancing. By the end of the evening, the sisters felt a deeper connection not only to the brothers but also to their new community. Even in quiet moments, bonds were forming. Late at night, Li Mei and Ahmed would sit and talk about hopes for the future. Zhu Ying and Bilal often shared quiet conversations about books, dreams, and small joys. Lan Hua and Samir laughed over stories from the day, teasing each other playfully. Imran, always cheerful, often stayed up late listening, offering comments that made everyone smile. These moments, filled with laughter, curiosity, and understanding, were quietly laying the foundation for lasting relationships. The sisters also supported each other in new ways. Li Mei guided her younger sisters through daily challenges, offering advice on everything from household chores to language practice. Zhu Ying and Lan Hua learned to be independent, gradually taking initiative in their new home. The sisters' bond provided comfort and courage, reminding them that they were not alone and that family could be found in new forms. By the end of the second month, the brothers and sisters had experienced enough challenges and small victories to feel a quiet but profound sense of connection. The initial awkwardness and nervousness had faded, replaced by mutual respect, understanding, and growing affection. They had learned to communicate across languages, navigate cultural differences, and face the emotional challenges of being far from home and loved ones. It was clear to all seven that life was slowly changing. The sisters were no longer strangers, they were becoming part of the family. The brothers were no longer simply seeking companionship, they were discovering the value of patience, empathy, and genuine connection. Small gestures, a shared meal, a kind word, a moment of laughter, were slowly building trust and laying the foundation for love. Although they were not yet in love, there was a quiet sense that something special was developing. The sisters were beginning to feel at home, and the brothers were beginning to see beyond the initial arrangement. Each day was a step toward understanding, acceptance, and emotional closeness. Life, which had once seemed ordinary and predictable, was becoming richer, fuller, and more meaningful. The brothers and sisters realized that adjustment was not a single moment but a process. It required patience, kindness, and effort from everyone involved. Each challenge, whether related to language, culture, or emotions, was an opportunity to grow closer, to learn about each other, and to develop the trust that would sustain their relationships. They also understood that love could not be forced. It developed slowly, nurtured by respect, care, and shared experiences. By the end of the second part of their journey, all seven were beginning to feel that they had found something rare and valuable. Though their paths had started in uncertainty, with fear and hesitation, they were now moving toward understanding, companionship, and the possibility of true love. The sisters' courage, the brothers' patience, and the shared experiences of daily life had created a sense of hope and anticipation for what was to come. As the weeks turned into months, the four brothers and the three sisters began to feel a subtle, powerful change in their relationships. What had started as an arrangement born from necessity and hope was slowly transforming into something deeper. The sisters were no longer strangers, and the brothers were no longer simply hosts. They were becoming partners, friends, and companions. Ahmed and Li Mei had grown closer in quiet, meaningful ways. Ahmed admired Li Mei's calm intelligence, her patience, and the way she handled challenges without complaint. He noticed the little things, how she carefully prepared meals, remembered small details about the house, and checked on her sisters to make sure they were comfortable. Li Mei, in turn, appreciated Ahmed's steady presence, the way he listened without judgment, and the subtle ways he offered support. They began to enjoy longer conversations in the evenings, sharing thoughts about their pasts, their dreams, and even their fears. It was during these moments that they realized their connection was no longer superficial. It was growing into genuine affection. Bilal and Zhu Ying's bond also deepened quietly. Bilal had always been gentle and patient, and Zhu Ying responded to that with trust and openness. She no longer hesitated to ask questions or share her opinions. Their evening walks had become a cherished ritual, a time when they could talk freely without interruptions. They would stroll along small streets, observing the town, pointing out flowers, animals, or decorations. These walks allowed them to communicate not only through words, but also through shared experiences. Zhu Ying's shy smiles and Bilal's quiet attentiveness began to speak volumes about the growing trust and closeness between them. Samir and Lan Hua's relationship, full of energy and laughter, also matured. Their playful teasing and jokes had become more personal, full of understanding and shared memories. Samir learned to appreciate Lan Hua's thoughtfulness, noticing how she often cared for her sisters and for him in subtle ways. Lan Hua, on her part, began to see the depth beneath Samir's lively exterior, understanding that his energy came from a place of care and affection. Their playful moments became opportunities for emotional connection, laughter building trust, and joy turning into a sense of security. Imran, cheerful and lively, continued to be a source of joy for everyone, but he too began to notice the depth of his feelings. He saw how the sisters supported one another, and how they were slowly letting themselves trust the brothers. He realized that true companionship was more than fun and laughter. It was about being there, offering comfort and sharing responsibility. Imran started to observe the subtle ways his sisters-in-law expressed care and affection, and he began to respond with thoughtfulness, understanding, and tenderness. Life in the household had found a rhythm that blended cultures, personalities, and habits. Meals were often a mix of traditions, with Ahmed and Li Mei cooking together, Bilal assisting Zhu Ying, and Samir and Lan Hua experimenting with flavors, while Imran helped wherever needed. Laughter filled the kitchen, and even when dishes were burned or ingredients mixed incorrectly, no one minded. These small shared experiences built a sense of family that was stronger than anyone had expected. The sisters' bond also played a key role in the growing harmony. Li Mei guided her younger sisters, offering advice, encouragement, and comfort when challenges arose. Zhu Ying and Lan Hua learned to act independently while still relying on each other for support. Their unity gave them strength, making it easier to adapt to their new lives while maintaining their individuality. The brothers noticed this bond and respected it, understanding that love for each other did not mean separation from family. It became clear that the sisters' relationship was a foundation that strengthened not only their connection to each other, but also their relationships with the brothers. Community life introduced new experiences that brought the couples closer. The brothers decided to take the sisters to a local fair, where music, food, and games offered both excitement and challenges. Li Mei, initially cautious, began to enjoy the atmosphere with Ahmed by her side. Zhu Ying stayed close to Bilal, laughing quietly when something surprised her. Lan Hua ran ahead with Samir, dancing to the music and inviting him to join. Imran cheered from behind, clapping and encouraging them all. By the end of the evening, everyone felt a deeper connection, not just to each other, but to the life they were building together. Through these shared experiences, small but meaningful gestures began to appear. Ahmed would leave tea for Li Mei when he knew she was tired. Bilal would quietly bring a blanket for Zhu Ying when she shivered. Samir would notice when Lan Hua looked sad and offer a comforting word or playful distraction. Imran would prepare little surprises like notes or small gifts to make the sisters smile. Each act of care, no matter how minor, strengthened trust and deepened affection. Challenges still appeared as they always do in life. There were moments when misunderstandings caused tension. Words spoken too quickly, gestures misinterpreted, or cultural differences created small conflicts. Ahmed sometimes grew frustrated when Li Mei hesitated to share her thoughts. Bilal occasionally struggled to understand Zhu Ying's shyness. Samir and Lan Hua had moments when humor clashed with seriousness. Imran, though cheerful, sometimes misjudged situations. But every time, the seven of them chose communication, patience, and empathy over anger. These moments, rather than driving them apart, became lessons in understanding and compromise. Romantic feelings began to blossom in subtle ways. Ahmed noticed the gentle way Li Mei looked at him during quiet moments, and he felt warmth in his chest he hadn't expected. Li Mei found comfort in Ahmed's consistent care. the safety she felt in his presence slowly turning into affection. Bilal felt a similar stir when Zhu Ying smiled at him, her trust in him growing stronger every day. Zhu Ying realized that Bilal's quiet presence was not just comforting, but also inspiring, a reminder that love could be gentle and steady. Samir and Lan Hua's connection became more emotional as well. Their laughter and teasing gradually included moments of tenderness. Samir began to notice how much he cared for Lan Hua's happiness, while Lan Hua realized that Samir's energy and humor were matched by a depth of feeling she had not seen before. Imran, observing all this, felt the joy and warmth of these bonds, understanding that love could take many forms: quiet, playful, gentle, and supportive. The sisters' support for each other became even more important as emotions deepened. Li Mei offered advice to Zhu Ying and Lan Hua about navigating feelings and understanding their husbands' personalities. The younger sisters, in turn, learned to balance independence with care for one another. Their unity provided a strong foundation, ensuring that even as romantic feelings grew, family bonds remained solid. This bond became a source of strength for all three couples, helping them face challenges together rather than alone. Small celebrations and daily rituals further strengthened the emotional connections. Birthdays, small victories, and festivals became opportunities for shared joy. Ahmed and Li Mei began to celebrate quiet milestones, like finishing a task together or learning a new word. Bilal and Zhu Ying would mark small achievements with a walk or a shared treat. Samir and Lan Hua found fun in spontaneous celebrations, often pulling Imran into the excitement. These moments of togetherness created lasting memories and reinforced the sense of family and love. As time passed, the brothers also began to reflect on their personal growth. Ahmed realized that patience and understanding were as important as responsibility. Bilal discovered the joy of quiet companionship and the value of empathy. Samir learned that energy and humor must be balanced with attentiveness and care. Imran understood that kindness and observation could be as meaningful as laughter. The sisters, too, reflected on their journey, realizing that courage, adaptability, and mutual support could overcome uncertainty and fear. The community around them began to notice the harmony in the household. Neighbors observed the sisters interacting respectfully and warmly with the brothers, and slowly, the initial curiosity and skepticism turned into acceptance. The couples were no longer strangers. They were seen as part of the town's fabric, contributing to its life and sharing its joys. This acceptance reinforced their confidence and sense of belonging, making their bonds even stronger. By the end of this part of their journey, love had grown quietly but unmistakably. What had begun as an arrangement born out of necessity had evolved into emotional closeness, respect, and mutual affection. Ahmed and Li Mei's bond was deepening with quiet understanding. Bilal and Zhu Ying's relationship was growing through trust and gentle care. Samir and Lan Hua's love was blossoming through laughter and tender attention. Imran's joy and attentiveness nurtured his growing connection with the sisters. Each couple had found a rhythm that worked, blending personalities, cultures, and emotions into relationships that felt genuine and promising. Though they had not yet faced the challenges of full commitment or the pressures of long-term life together, they had laid a solid foundation. Every shared experience, small gesture of care, and moment of understanding had contributed to a network of trust, respect, and growing love. The brothers and sisters had discovered that real relationships required patience, empathy, and openness, and that love, when nurtured thoughtfully, could flourish even in the most unlikely circumstances. As the third part of their journey came to a close, there was a quiet sense of anticipation. Each couple felt the stirrings of deeper feelings, a recognition that their lives were intertwining in meaningful ways. The sisters had found courage and confidence in a new land, supported by one another and by their husbands. The brothers had discovered the rewards of patience, care, and emotional investment. Together, they were moving toward a future where love, trust, and companionship could grow even stronger, preparing them for the next stage of commitment and happiness. Months had passed since the sisters first arrived, and life in the household had transformed in ways no one had expected. What began as a cautious arrangement had grown into a home filled with laughter, care, and love. The bonds between the four brothers and three sisters had deepened, and it was clear that their relationships were no longer just about companionship. They were about trust, respect, and the possibility of lifelong partnership. Ahmed and Li Mei had become inseparable in subtle, meaningful ways. Ahmed admired the way Li Mei approached every challenge calmly and thoughtfully. He loved how she cared for her sisters, supported the household, and still found time to nurture her own growth. Li Mei, in turn, felt safe with Ahmed, appreciating his steady presence, patience, and quiet attentiveness. Their daily routines had become shared experiences, cooking together, tending to the small garden, and enjoying evenings filled with quiet conversation. Slowly, they realized that the affection they felt for one another had grown beyond respect and friendship. It was love. Bilal and Xiu Ying's relationship had matured with gentle consistency. Bilal's patience and quiet demeanor created a safe space for Xiu Ying to express herself freely. She had become more confident, sharing her opinions and thoughts without hesitation. Their evening walks had evolved into small adventures, exploring nearby towns, attending local events, and discovering hidden corners of their community. With each shared experience, their bond strengthened, and they began to feel that their connection was not just temporary, it was permanent. Samir and Lan Hua's love had become a mixture of laughter, care, and tender understanding. Their playful moments had grown richer with meaning. Samir had learned to read Lan Hua's moods, understanding when to joke and when to offer support. Lan Hua had discovered that Samir's lively energy was balanced by his ability to care deeply, even in silence. They often spent time dancing to music in the living room, teasing each other, and sharing dreams about their future. These moments of joy and intimacy created a strong foundation for long-term commitment. Imran, who had always been cheerful and lively, had also found depth in his relationships. He had grown more observant, noticing small ways to make the sisters feel valued and loved. His attentiveness, combined with his natural warmth, helped nurture trust and affection. Imran began to understand that true love was not only about fun and laughter. It was about caring for another person's happiness, being present, and sharing responsibilities. The sisters continued to support each other, ensuring that their bond remained strong even as their relationships with the brothers deepened. Li Mei often offered advice to Xiu Ying and Lan Hua, helping them navigate cultural differences, communication challenges, and emotional complexities. Xiu Ying and Lan Hua, in turn, learned to act independently while maintaining care for each other. This unity gave them strength, making it possible for love to flourish without fear or uncertainty. As the household prepared for a small celebration to honor their growing unity, the atmosphere was filled with excitement and anticipation. The brothers had decided to formalize their commitments in a quiet ceremony with close friends and supportive neighbors. While the celebration was simple, it was meaningful, reflecting the bonds that had developed over months of shared experiences. The sisters helped with the decorations, preparing the home with care and attention, while the brothers arranged practical details and coordinated guests. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the household was filled with warmth, laughter, and nervous excitement. Ahmed and Li Mei stood together, feeling a deep sense of connection and gratitude. Bilal and Xiu Ying held hands, their eyes filled with quiet understanding. Samir and Lan Hua laughed softly, sharing private jokes and tender glances. Imran joined in, ensuring that every moment was light-hearted and joyful. The sisters, as always, supported each other, reinforcing the sense of unity and family. During the ceremony, each couple exchanged words that reflected their journey. Ahmed spoke softly, expressing gratitude for Li Mei's patience and care, and promising to support and cherish her for life. Li Mei responded with heartfelt words about trust, respect, and the happiness she had found with Ahmed. Bilal and Zhu Ying shared a quiet moment, speaking about the journey they had taken from uncertainty to deep connection, promising to remain each other's source of strength. Samir and Lan Hua, with laughter and sincerity, expressed their joy at finding love in a place they had not expected. Imran offered kind and playful words, reflecting the warmth and support that had shaped his relationship with the sisters. The ceremony, though simple, symbolized more than just commitment. It reflected months of patience, understanding, and emotional growth. It celebrated the challenges overcome, the bonds formed, and the love that had quietly flourished. Family and neighbors witnessed a unique story of courage, resilience, and connection, seeing firsthand how trust, care, and mutual respect could create happiness. After the ceremony, life settled into a deeper sense of normalcy. The brothers and sisters continued their daily routines, but now with a stronger sense of unity and purpose. Cooking, cleaning, working, and sharing leisure time were no longer just tasks. They were expressions of care and partnership. Each couple found small ways to make each other's lives easier, more joyful, and more meaningful. Ahmed and Li Mei continued tending the garden, their shared love of nature creating calm and peace. Bilal and Zhu Ying explored the town together, discovering new shops, cafes, and parks that brought joy to their quiet moments. Samir and Lan Hua continued to laugh and play together, dancing, singing, and sharing small adventures. Imran, ever cheerful, ensured that every moment was filled with warmth and light-hearted energy. The sisters' bond remained a source of strength and inspiration. Li Mei, Zhu Ying, and Lan Hua supported each other in practical matters, emotional challenges, and even small disagreements. Their unity made it possible for each to thrive individually and in their relationships with the brothers. They celebrated successes, comforted each other in difficulties, and shared dreams about the future. Their sisterhood was a constant reminder that love and family could take many forms, and that supporting each other strengthened not only themselves, but also their partners. As the months continued, the brothers began to notice personal growth in themselves and each other. Ahmed became more patient and empathetic, understanding that leadership included listening and nurturing. Bilal discovered the joy of quiet companionship and the importance of expressing emotions openly. Samir learned that laughter and energy were best balanced with attentiveness and care. Imran realized that being cheerful also meant being observant, responsible, and emotionally present. The sisters, too, reflected on their journey, recognizing that courage, adaptability, and support could turn uncertainty into happiness. The community around them continued to accept and appreciate their unique household. Neighbors and friends noticed the harmony, the mutual respect, and the love that filled the home. Children in the neighborhood played with the sisters and brothers, sharing laughter and games. Friends were welcomed warmly, creating connections beyond the family itself. This acceptance reinforced the sense of belonging, helping the couples feel confident in their relationships and their place in the town. Over time, deeper commitments were made in daily life. Ahmed and Li Mei began planning small future projects, like expanding the garden and cooking special meals for guests. Bilal and Zhu Ying discussed learning new skills together, like crafts and local cooking. Samir and Lan Hua started teaching each other hobbies, sharing knowledge and laughter in equal measure. Imran contributed by organizing little surprises, games, and celebrations to ensure that life remained joyful. These commitments, though small, reflected a deeper understanding that love required consistent effort, care, and attention. The couples also began to dream about the long-term future. Discussions about children, shared responsibilities, and household management emerged naturally. Ahmed and Li Mei envisioned a calm, supportive home where kindness and understanding were central. Bilal and Zhu Ying imagined a life filled with quiet joy, companionship, and mutual respect. Samir and Lan Hua dreamed of a lively household where laughter and affection were constants. Imran envisioned a balanced home where fun, care, and emotional presence coexisted. Each couple recognized that love was not only a feeling but also a choice, an ongoing decision to nurture happiness, trust, and partnership. Challenges, of course, still appeared from time to time. Misunderstandings, disagreements, and external pressures tested their relationships. But by now, the brothers and sisters had developed strong communication skills, empathy, and patience. They learned to face difficulties together, supporting each other rather than letting conflicts create distance. Every challenge became an opportunity to strengthen bonds, deepen understanding, and reaffirm commitment. In quiet moments, each couple reflected on how far they had come. Ahmed and Lee May smiled at the thought of their first meeting, remembering the nervousness, language barriers, and small adjustments they had made. Bilal and Zhu Ying looked back on the timid steps they had taken toward trust and love, grateful for the patience that had brought them closer. Samir and Lan Hua laughed softly at the memories of misunderstandings and playful fights, recognizing that those moments had strengthened their connection. Imran cherished every cheerful interaction, realizing that love had grown from care, attentiveness, and shared joy. The sisters' influence remained central throughout the household. Their support for each other and for their partners created a sense of balance and harmony. Li Mei's guidance, Zhu Ying's quiet strength, and Lan Hua's cheerful warmth ensured that everyone felt valued and understood. The household had become more than just a home. It had become a place of love, trust, and family, where each person's presence contributed to the happiness of the whole. By the end of this period, it was clear that the journey had transformed everyone involved. The brothers had found love, companionship, and personal growth. The sisters had found courage, belonging, and meaningful relationships. Together, they had created a home that was not just functional but full of emotional warmth, laughter, and care. Their lives had intertwined in ways that brought joy, support, and fulfillment, proving that true love could flourish even in unexpected circumstances. Looking back, they all realized that what had begun as an uncertain arrangement had grown into something extraordinary. The sisters had traveled across the world seeking new opportunities and had found love, family, and happiness. The brothers had opened their hearts to possibilities they had never imagined, discovering that patience, respect, and care could lead to deep and lasting affection. Together, they had built not only romantic bonds but also a strong sense of family, grounded in trust, understanding, and mutual support. As the story of the four brothers and three sisters continued, it became clear that life had given them a rare gift. They had faced challenges, embraced differences, and nurtured love in its many forms. Their home was now a place where laughter, affection, and care were constants. Each day brought small joys, shared experiences, and opportunities to strengthen the bonds that had grown over months of effort and understanding. In the end, they had learned a timeless truth. Love is not just a feeling, but a journey of patience, commitment, and mutual respect. It is built on trust, understanding, and the willingness to grow together. The sisters had found their true partners, and the brothers had found their true love. Together, they had discovered the beauty of family, the strength of unity, and the joy of sharing life with someone who truly cares. Their journey, though unique and unexpected, had led to happiness, fulfillment, and the beginning of a life filled with hope, love, and enduring connection.